Today we're going to be discussing PERM. PERM is the online labor certification application process. It's the basic way that employers sponsor individuals for permanent residence. In immigration, there's basically two ways that people obtain permanent residence, which are green cards. It's either through family sponsorship or employment sponsorship. And there are a few different ways to get employment-based sponsorship green cards. Most of the applications, though, are prepared by employers. Employer sponsorship is the key way. And the PERM process is the primary way that employers sponsor foreigners for green cards. The basic idea is to protect the U.S. job market from foreigners who are coming in and taking jobs that that are available to Americans. So the process is overseen by the Department of Labor, which ensures that the employer properly recruits for U.S. workers to be sure that the Department of Labor and ultimately the Immigration Service is not granting green cards to foreigners for jobs for which which are in demand by Americans and U.S. workers generally. The PERM process is a very specific process. The Department of Labor oversees a very specific recruitment process for the aliens. The other way if an individual is someone who's actually at the very top of his field, they can bypass this PERM process by self-petitioning in the EB-1 or EB-2 petitions under certain specific situations. If someone is at the very top of the field, they can self-sponsor by proving that their accomplishments are so much more advanced than anyone else in the field that there is no need to recruit for an American worker. Even if an employer would be able to find a U.S. worker for those positions, immigration still wants those individuals here. So there's no need for employer sponsorship. Similar with EB-2, which are people who are of exceptional ability in the national interest of the United States. If they can prove that the country would actually be worse off, it's actually a very high standard, then they also can self-petition and they don't need employer sponsorship. As for PERM, which we'll be discussing in depth today, the first thing that the employer and the employee need to know is that the employer not only sponsors the individual, but the employer must pay all costs associated with the PERM process itself. That's all the legal fees and advertising costs. It can't pass that on to the employee or any third party. The employer also must retain some supporting documentation in the event of an audit, but it's an online application, and therefore no supporting documentation is normally submitted with that application.